Hey, welcome back to Mondays with Monique. I'm so glad that you're watching today. We have very special guests with us today. It's Dr. and Mrs. Fayren from Fayren Family Practice. Now, they are my personal doctor and assistant. We ran some blood tests a while back, and we're going to talk about results on that, a little bit about food, fitness, have fun, have a good time, and we're cooking up some yummy things. So I want you to stay tuned. We're going to go over for a commercial in just a moment here, and we'll be back with you. Mondays with Monique. See you in just a moment.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Well, welcome back to Mondays with Monique. I'm Monique Grosade, and I'm here with Dr. Fayren and Michelle Fayren. They have been dear friends of our family for years, and they're going to talk a little bit about how to keep me healthy and how to keep you healthy, and also just kind of go over some of the basic guidelines that we all need to know about. So, Dr. Fayren, why don't you start off and tell me about testing?
Oh, yes. Well, Monique got some annual lab work done, and which is a very good idea for all of us who are over 40 especially. You want to know what your cholesterol is and your sugar, because these are two things in your body that can tell you whether you're at risk for heart disease, meaning heart attacks and strokes and what have you. Mm-hmm. It's still the biggest killer in the United States, so you want to be aware. Just like changing your oil in your car, you got to know your cholesterol.
So even more so than cancer, is that right?
It is still the biggest killer,
Wow.
That's for sure. Second is cancer.
Okay.
So it's still the leader.
Mm-hmm.
When I say cardiovascular, I include stroke too.
Sure,
so.
sure.
But preserving Monique's blood vessels and mine and Michelle's takes a test, a simple test. You have to know your cholesterol. You should know your sugar. And in Monique's case, she's been kind enough to just share this with everybody.
Sure.
Also, your thyroid, you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? Blood pressure is real important.
Mm-hmm.
Not an issue with her, but a lot of people could have perfect cholesterols, but if they have a high blood pressure, they could be in trouble. So it's really a multifactorial disease. You need to know your sugar, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, and I mentioned thyroid is important also as an adjunct.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So why don't you give us the good or not so good news?
Sure. So Monique, young looking, much younger than her stated age, physically fit looking young lady comes to the office, and you figure, oh, she's got to have low cholesterol, right? Well, she had great blood pressure, but a lot of the cholesterol, as Dr. Hussein told me one time when he was counseling me about my cholesterol, is hereditary. So if you have a family history, you really want to be tested, maybe even earlier, maybe at 30. For instance, can I share about your dad?
Yes, please.
Her dad had his first heart attack at age 41. Now, unfortunately, he was a smoker, too, back in the day when more people smoked. So that exacerbated all of the risk factors, namely the high cholesterol, which he probably inherited from his parents.
Well, my mom used to fry his steaks in lard and fry his rice in lard and fry his eggs in lard back at that time, because you think about that, that was the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was education, too. Education, like you're listening in here today. Our local version of the Dr. Oz show. You watch him too. It gives you a lot of information. Just education is the main thing about prevention. So, should I go into the actual results now?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay. Well, as I said, physically fit-looking Monique, you wouldn't think she had a problem, but her cholesterol comes back at 256. Some of you have read about it and watched the news. You know you should probably be below 200, okay? So she's got to shave off 50 points on her total cholesterol. And then you've probably heard and have read that what is the spread, I call it, of your cholesterol. That was the total cholesterol. The total cholesterol is made up of HDL, as one of my medical assistants coined the term. It's the happy cholesterol. The other one is low-density lipoprotein, LDL, and that's called the lousy, according to my medical assistant. So you got to watch your.
Got to make it
You
easy.
want to have a lot of happy cholesterol, which is your HDL. It's the good stuff. And actually, Monique does have some good stuff because she exercises. and she has a high fiber diet. She has a 56 on her HDL. That's really good. American Heart Association says 45 or greater. If you have 56, you have a much better chance of avoiding cardiovascular disease down the road. You probably inherited that from your mother, who lived into her 70s.
Yeah, I'm 75 without any heart problems. A little high blood pressure at the end.
Yeah. And Michelle has a great HDL too. And it's more typical that women have higher HDLs, which is the happy cholesterol, and they live longer.
The HDL sisters.
And then, so Monique's sitting pretty at 56. And as I said, if you come up with an HDL, talk to your doctor about it. But the two things that'll raise that are exercise and high fiber diet. 1 ounce alcohol a day is also helpful, but I don't necessarily recommend that because it can get into a habit that leads
Is that
to
1
other
ounce
problems.
as in 1 glass of wine? Is that an ounce, or is that a little more than an ounce?
I'm sorry.
One glass.
Let me
I'm just kidding.
let
That's
me
a nice
explain.
size glass.
Well, I meant to say 1 ounce of distilled spirits, mainly a scotch or a whiskey, is equivalent to 4 to 6 ounces of a wine, and then that's equivalent to 1 beer. So it's
Oh,
1
okay.
beer, 6 ounces of wine, or 1 shot of whiskey or scotch.
God.
That's what stimulates the HDL, but you know what I'm saying. You don't want to drink that every day.
No wonder my HDL is doing okay. I love grapes.
Now, getting on to the lousy cholesterol, the LDL.
Right.
Monique came in at 162, and the recommendation for her age bracket is about 120. You have to factor in a bunch of things. Since her dad had coronary artery disease at age 41,
Right.
I would say to Monique, and she's intelligent and has read a lot about this, she'd say, well, I don't want to be 120. I'd like to be lower. Is that a good thing? That's a really good thing. It's even better to go lower. For instance, the American Heart Association guidelines for a person who's had an angioplasty or a bypass is 100 or less. One of our cardiologists in town, Dr. Charn, recommends even lower than that, below 90. He goes, Mark, get them below 90. And so I do. So, get it as low as you can without ruining your whole quality of life, and just get it checked periodically.
So some of the things that you've suggested that I do to reduce the cholesterol are really just, things that we want to do for our health anyways, to maintain our weight. We're going to exercise 3 times a week, at least 20 minutes each
Right.
session. More if you'd like. I mean, it's certainly not going to hurt. And then also eating healthier, maybe a few less eggs, less fried food, less, fatty dairy products, and then more whole grain and fiber type, right?
Right.
Fruits and vegetables, add in as many as we can. I think that's super important because that'll be sort of like the mainstay and sort of the filler, and then you can have small amounts of balanced foods around that.
Definitely.
What I have done so far is the first week after the results, I received the results, I went ahead and kind of lowered the amount of fats that I took in. And then within the second week, I went ahead and picked up my exercise routine more steadily. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to go over to a commercial break. In just a few seconds, we're going to talk a little bit about what kind of food we can make to keep healthy and what we're going to do about the exercise. So stay right with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.